We have so many
topics we plan on talking about all around this risk culture.
Yeah.
The risk culture is so big, so and I think we're having fun, so it should be fun to keep going.
Yeah. Hi, this is Vibeke from Control Pro Risk Management. I'm here today again with Alexander Larsen from Baldwin Global, and we're going to talk a little bit more about risk. This time about how to engage people towards managing risk.
Yep, and we've had some interesting discussions already so far, so I'm sure this will be interesting as well. I'll let you start.
Engaging people is, it's I don't know if it's a science, but I think it's something that's really a personal thing. Two different people cannot engage the same group in the same way because it has to be real somehow. But I think, from my perspective and from my experience, that you have to find the way with the group you have in front of you and expand from that. And if you don't, I'm not sure you're going to get any results, because one of the things that engagement gives is openness and willingness to share, willingness to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I think key to engagement is to be non-threatening as well. I think a lot of people look at risk managers as auditors. And they sometimes think, oh, they're coming here to tell us how to do our job. Or like we spoke about in a previous video, it's all negative. It's going to stop us being innovative. It's going to stop us doing our job. And I think one of the things I always say to anyone I'm speaking to is, in a workshop type of environment, is I'm not the expert, you're the experts. They know their risks better than I do. I just happen to be quite good at facilitating and extracting the information from them in the right way and getting it written up in a way that everyone can understand and that meets the risk language of that organization. But at the end of the day, they know their risks better than I do. And letting them understand that, look, I'm here to support rather than stop you from doing your, or worse, tell you how to do your job. I think that's key. And I think that's where the engagement comes in, to try to ensure that they are engaged and feeling positive about the meetings or the risk management in general. And so what kind of approaches would you use to engage? I mean, obviously you talked about the engaging the group positively, and sort of each different people are going to engage differently because it's all about sort of the personal view. But what can you do? What kind of tools can you use, or what kind of approaches can you use to try to engage people?
Communication is key. Training is key to even if it's the public or if it's internally in an organization. You talked about the scary risk manager. The risk manager could be a more neutral facilitator. Communication and also ownership. Finding the key to what they own. You talked about in another video how people like to talk about their own area. Yeah. So when we own something, we're instantly engaged. So finding that and helping people see how that connects to the totality. And
I think that comes back to having an actual positive risk workshop whereby there's consensus and engaging people. And we're going to talk about this in another video, but engaging people to actually raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll own that risk. Rather than having to assign people to a risk, because then you don't get that same engagement or ownership. I tend to actually use ISO 31000 as my approach. I always find ISO 31000 is a great standard because it can be adapted everywhere, but it is a baseline. I always look to exceed ISO 31000. It allows you to adopt it, and it's flexible enough that any organization can pick it up. And then you look at, well, how can I exceed that standard? Whilst we've adopted ISO 31000, that's only risk management is pushing that out. Internal audit will often be very integral to that process. But I do want to point out that at the start, that's when you tend to have this, risk management are scary, they're the internal auditors. once you, hopefully, through training, through engagement, let them realize that, look, we are not internal audit, we're separate from internal audit, we have two very different focuses, and we're here to support you. I think that, again, it comes back to culture, getting a culture where they understand that we aren't internal audit, we're very different.
Yeah, and we're the facilitators.
Exactly, yeah.
And
we don't own the risk, that's another important
or the
one.
process, really.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit more about these formal parts of the engagement.
Obviously it's great to engage people. You always want to engage people, and I'm a strong believer in that at all levels of the organisation. Having a risk manager that has the right skills to be able to talk to people in leadership positions, right down to the factory floor, that it doesn't seem condescending or arrogant, someone who is personable, I think it's very important and engaging and being able to bring stakeholders in. However, I also believe to build the risk culture takes a little bit more, and there are tools that you can do to help engage people, such as having reward for doing risk management. So if you reward either a person or a department, they might be more willing to actually do risk management. So for example, HSE, Health and Safety, are very good at this. They always have awards, monthly awards, annual awards for staff. This is our best HSE staff this year or this month, or department. So that's just one example. It might also be that if all the departments are identifying risk and you have a budget, either at a director level or maybe even a global level or organizational level, if you have a shared risk management budget that you can assign to certain risks in order to manage them, it might encourage people who maybe in the department they've identified a risk and suddenly they're given funding to manage the risk. They'll definitely want to do it again.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't get that funding, you might see, oh, that department got funding because they're doing risk management really well. Maybe we'll get funding as well to manage our risks where possible. Of course, it takes that shared budget. That's a bit more mature, but it's one way of maybe encouraging people to engage in risk management.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because this is interesting. This is also communication and culture, because when you said reward, I instantly felt a negative approach to that, because reward is you put up 3 risks, now you get your cap or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But when I hear you talk, I hear that you're saying that the reward is more indirect. It's giving a department the possibility to actually do something
exactly
valuable moving forward in a better way by treating the risk.
Exactly.
And that's great.
Yeah. Rather than saying, as you said, I've seen that exactly what you were talking about. That if you identify 3 risks and 1 opportunity, then great, tick box. The problem is then people start manipulating that to try to. It's like, how many have you actioned and closed, and it starts getting a bit, well, the KPIs.
Because what is the value of identifying 20 risks
versus 10? But if I need 20, I'll identify 20, but they won't be very good risks.
No. So it's something about making sure you keep the quality.
Exactly, and that's maybe one way that they're rewarded. If you've got a department that is constantly giving you good quality risks, it's like that HSE award. This is a department that has done quite well. It's not going to work in all organizations, but that's one way of doing it. The other one I was looking at is even in job descriptions. So, for example, we all believe that all staff should be identifying risk. Everyone is responsible for risk. So why is it not in job descriptions? It's never in job descriptions. What about as a director? A director should probably have something about risk. And now we're seeing that more directors have a risk description. But then what about role requirements? So if you are within an organization, you've been working there for 3 or 4 years, and you have aspirations to just keep moving up, there should be a career path that leads you to a director position. But along that path, one of the requirements should be that you should have a certain level of risk management understanding. Equally, if you move into IT, you should have a certain level of risk management IT understanding, or another route. Risk management should be embedded within the development plans, essentially, to reach your career goals within the organization.
And now we're talking real integration,
Yes.
which is very important to get the job done
Yeah.
in a good way. I just have to comment that, heard Warren Buffett
Yeah.
say that I'm the chief risk officer of my company.
Yeah.
So he has understood it. And
Exactly.
he says that the main focus I have is to manage risk.
Yeah.
And by managing risk, I reach my objectives.
Well, one of the things that I heard from a personal point of view, which really impressed me, and is why I joined them, was Saudi Aramco. I heard the CEO of Saudi Aramco saying, at the end of the day, buck stops with me,
Yeah.
and therefore I am the chief risk officer, and this is why we need risk management within Saudi Aramco. And I was very impressed by that statement, because as you say, Warren Buffett says it, and he gets it.
Yeah.
If you're saying that, you get it. You understand why you need risk management. So yeah, you make a very good point there, and I really like Warren Buffett as well. I like
Well, we like people that understand.
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
That brings us to the leadership part.
Yes.
Really, that's also maybe the main clue in risk management. If you have a strong leader that believes in risk management as a means of getting where you want to get, a lot of the job is done.
Yes.
Because it's it kind of sprinkles down to
Exactly,
the
and I think the rest of the organisations, they look up and they're being told to do risk management, but no one's believing it at the top.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to do it. If they're not doing it at the top, that's just as bad. You know, you have to practice what you preach. And a lot of the time, an organisation, the staff will engage and they will identify risk,
Yeah.
and it will be escalated. If nothing's done with that the first time or the second time, eventually that engagement will disappear. They might be positive to start with, but if they think, I'm identifying these risks, nothing's being done with it, it's a waste of time for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Engagement is top to bottom.
I think you need to activate people and then engage them into practical action as well. I think it sticks better.
And again, we'll probably talk about that in the risk management training that we're going to cover.
That brings us to a conclusion actually, because we have creating relevance for
Yeah.
each individual, showing that this leads to results,
Mm-hmm.
integration
Yeah.
as a principle, and leadership. Keep following our videos,
Yes.
and
Please
we'll
do.
give you more.
And any questions as well, please comment, send emails to us, or send private messages on LinkedIn or whatever. Happy to explore further.
Yeah, both of us are. So thank you, Alexander.
Okay,
Again,
thanks a lot, Vibeke.